we there? What happened?
You froze for a little bit.
It did froze for a second. It did freeze for a second. Excuse me. There we go. That was weird. It says we've been live for 15 seconds already. Well, in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Money Script Podcast. It's your host, Yohance. Yo, you know who I am. I'm here. I'm back. It's 2020. What year is it? 2023. Yes, 2023. I almost said 24. That's because I'm already planning for 2024 and 2025. Sometimes you just got to do that. With better time than now? But it is 2023. It is what I am dubbing the Jordan year. I'm a huge fan of Michael Jordan, for those that know me well, also as a hometown hero of North Carolina. So this is the year of Jordan. So I'm really excited to play at my peak level all year long. Okay. I'm trying to put up Jordan numbers this year. And you know what Jordan numbers is for me? Jordan numbers for me is consistency. Okay. It doesn't mean that I'm going to score 50 points, 70 points, 80 points a night. I know there's people that do that. I'm going to be consistent all around defense, offense. Give me the ball, coach, put me in, let's go. I am so excited to be back with all of you. We had a little break for the holidays. Hopefully you've gotten over your retail therapy. I'll call it that. Hopefully you got everything for yourself that was on your list for those of you that participate, and things on the list of others in whatever holiday that you're participating. I hope you enjoyed some fun with friends and fun with family. And I also hope that you're not experiencing any, what's the word I'll use? Regret. In finances, the holidays can be a really tough time. It can. A lot of people just tend to spend a little too much money. A lot of individuals don't prepare themselves for that time of year, and it comes every single year. As a matter of fact, it's coming this year too. So I encourage you, take some time, sometime this month, this week, depending on when you're listening to this. Matter of fact, it doesn't matter when you're watching or listening to this. Take some time out for your finances. Okay. Take a moment out and just think about the things that are happening in the next 6 months, the next 12 months that you need to start planning for. As you know, I'm a financial planner. That's what I do. I want to help people make better financial decisions with their money. I want to help people align their financial behaviors with their values and with their goals. And to do that, that means we got to take some time with our money from time to time. I do want everyone to know, if this is, when you're listening to this, if it is still early 2023, you've probably saw in the news that there've been some massive changes to retirement planning, the Secure Act 2.0. We've got our team of attorneys and CPAs. We're all getting together and we're breaking down what is happening in the Secure Act 2.0. We'll come back with an episode later this season to tell you how you will be affected. Most of the stuff isn't in effect right now. They're talking about things that are going to happen in 2024 and beyond. So stay tuned for that episode. We did launch silently over the holidays. You may have seen it pop up. Alicia put out her brand new Money Mantras podcast, and it is fire. Oh my goodness. I've already listened to it. If I look at the rankings of how many times it's been listened to, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm like 100 of that. It is an amazing episode. It was the most requested episode of last year. Everyone kept asking, when is Alicia going to do a new Money Mantras? She did. She went out and got a gentleman to do a little reggae tune for her. It's to a beat. It's great. You'll love it. I told her she's going to get a Grammy for it. I'm going to put it out there, or Emmy, or she'll get something for it. We're working on it. I am so excited today. I have the amazing, the talented Jade Simmons with us today. I met Jade at the Riskalyze 2022 conference. Shout out to Aaron Klein. Thank you for inviting me to share the stage. I mean, we weren't on the stage at the same time, but we shared it. I was on it and she was on it. And oh my goodness, this woman was powerful. She is a world-renowned pianist. Okay. And am I allowed to give away the secret? I don't want to steal the thunder of the. I'm gonna tell it anyway. I can do this. This is my show. So here's what happened. She asked for a show of hands of individuals that know how to play the piano, have played an instrument sometime in their life. And I'd been talking to my neighbor, and he's like, "Go ahead and put your hand up." I was like, "No, I'm not that good anymore. That was a long time ago." And there were some people raising their hand. She picked a gentleman not too far from me, sent him to the stage, and told him, start playing a tune. She also asked for someone that has never played before and put her on the stage beside him. and they created one of the most amazing, beautiful songs I've ever seen. And in the middle of it, she starts playing with them. The message for me was, as a business leader,
Mhm.
is to trust your team. And you'll be surprised what they can accomplish if you give them the space to also trust in themselves, but also letting them know that you're not going to let them fail, that you're going to be there for them and giving them some support and guidance. And you had one person that's never played before, and a person that he was pretty good. He was freestyling too, and all three of them on the piano at the same time. And Jade started singing. Whew. So after the performance, I beeline to Jade. I actually waited in line with everybody else. They were doing book signing. We're going to talk about that too, but I had to wait. And I said, Jade, can you come to the Money Script podcast? And here she is. So with no further ado, Jade Simmons, CEO of Jade Media. Welcome to the Money Script podcast. How are you?
I'm good. You're gonna have to come on the road with me and narrate that segment now. Now I want some narration with it.
Ooh, that thing was. I'm still getting goosebumps.
I'm glad, and everything you said you took from it is that's what we hope. People can. It's. I could do it more with that example than I could by just saying what I wanted you to feel about leadership, right? For you to see it happen in real time. That's always the highlight of the show. And knock on wood, I've never picked wrong. Most of the time it's two people who both don't play at all. So it's always risky for me because as the leader, you're stepping out of the spotlight and handing it over. But I love that moment because of the points that you mentioned.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Now you're in the same state as I am. Am I correct? Aren't you in Houston?
I'm in Houston, Texas. That's right.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm right up the road in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have to, now that I know that you're in Houston.
We're right
I
there.
usually get there at least 2-3 times a year.
Okay. Well, and
So,
I'm also, my hometown is South Carolina, Charleston, South.
Okay.
My main man is Jordan. Now, my husband doesn't like for me to say that, but that's my guy. That's my guy. I might be taking that Jordan year too. I like
it's the Jordan year. That's it, all year long.
I like it.
All year long. So, Jade, you are an incredible, dynamic, powerful, I can keep going on with the adjectives, motivational speaker, coach. I mean, just incredible. And I, as someone that would like to aspire to that, to command a stage at that level, I'm just curious, how did you get comfortable with being in front of a stage like that using your voice? Because playing the piano, you don't say anything. Your fingers do all the talking.
Yeah.
But to use your voice in motivating a group of leaders, can you tell us about how you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think a lot of what people are seeing on stage from me now comes from having a background in performance. I did all of my schooling in music. I was a music major for undergrad and for grad school. So that definitely helps you get comfortable on stage and really listening to your audience, right? But the thing that differentiated me as a pianist was that I started speaking to the audience in between the music. I started having conversations with the audience, trying to inspire them, pointing their ears in a certain direction, what I wanted them to hear in the music. I often gave them tidbits about the composers because I wanted their brains and hearts to be active as they were listening. And, sidebar, I was also a little bit of manipulation there because it helped me with whatever stage fright I was having, because I was now creating this rapport with the audience. So I began to feel like I was playing more for a room full of friends than a room full of critics who were waiting to see me fail, right? That's the story we tell ourselves, especially in classical, is every note I miss, every memory slip, it's going to go down in history as the worst concert ever. And one of the ways I dealt with that ridiculous pressure was I began to make friends with my audience through speaking. And then the speaking took on a life of its own. And now the speaking is the main thing, but the music is what now differentiates me in the world of speaking. So it's been a really flip-flop.
Yes, definitely differentiates you. And when I go to events like the Riskalyze conference, I'll go to see who is presenting, but I don't do a lot of research. I'll see, okay, I know who that person is, but I like to be surprised. I do. It's like, Want to go in without any preconceived notions about what I'm going to receive, not going to receive, and just go in and absorb. And I believe we were on the same day. So when you began, I think they were doing the prep in the green room. And I was like, no, no, no. I like, yes, I know what I got to do. I'll be back for mics. I need to go to see this presentation, especially when, as soon as I heard a little bit of piano, I was like, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong place. I need to. So, but it was incredible. I probably took 3 pages of notes. I really appreciated everything that you shared. So now let's just call it out. You're Black and you're a pianist. So there's not a lot of Black folks in the piano industry that are not just, I mean, I could think of like a Timberland or somebody like that that does beats and producing, but to a classically trained pianist, you've got to be a one of very few. Am I right?
I'm one of a few. They're more than you think, but I am definitely one of a few with visibility. Should we say it that way?
Okay. Okay.
And when I was younger, I was one of a very few. There are more now coming down the pipeline, and there are whole networks like the Sphinx organization that specializes in opportunities that highlight African American and Latino community artists who are in these communities, and they make sure you are seeing more of us on these stages that you're not used to seeing us. When I was coming up, there was like 1 or 2 guys. Watts was one of the big names, and all the orchestras booked that one guy, right? No shade to Andre, he's phenomenal, but the orchestras booked that one guy. There was one Black composer they always played. They trotted out his music. Guess when? In February.
Oh yeah, of course.
And as a young artist, when I first started really performing, I would notice that my concerts really went up. I got a lot more concerts in February. And in the beginning, I couldn't figure it out. Why was I so? Then it was like, it's 3 months, because see, they weren't billing the program as a Black History program. It just, this is what they were doing. And so about the second year into my kind of early career, I said to my managers, yeah, I'm going to need you to let them know that my music also sounds good in March, April, May. And when we still saw that, we had the peak there and then the other months sort of trickled off, I did something really radical. And I know a lot of my other Black classical musician friends probably thought I was crazy. I started taking February off. I said,
I love it.
If they're not getting the point, I'm going to need them when they book me in February and say, we'll book you next year at a different time. We're going to call in all those chits. We're calling that in now. Right. The other thing was emerging artist series. I used to get booked on all the emerging artists. And then it was like for 3 years, why am I still emerging? Am I not
emerged? Yes.
So we started saying, no, we're not going to only play on those series. So I took some risk early on and stood for some things that I thought were really important. And I believe that the career that I have now, which is far outside of the world of classical music and outside of music in general, is a result of sort of taking those big risks. Calculated risks. I know we're talking about money, and also diversifying my portfolio, even as an artist and as a professional, so that I had more to offer. And I started making more money when I started doing just that.
I love it. I love it. So again, business owners, if you're listening in, she's dropping nuggets here. This is one you're going to want to just flag this episode, come back when you're not driving so you can take some notes, because you're going to want to implement some of these strategies that Jade is sharing with us today. So I'm curious, Jade, when you decided, what made you decide to write a book or become an author?
I'd written, the first book I wrote it's called Emerge Already. It was for other emerging artists, and it was sort of business tips on how to build a business as an artist. We weren't taught that in music school. Now, lots of music schools have music business, and but even still, if you take those programs, they don't really get to the real crux of how to build not just a career, but a business, a sustainable business in the arts. So most artists don't think of themselves as self-employed or as business owners. And so that was sort of my first foray into coaching, was helping other artists think more in terms of enterprise. Michael Jordan, Apple, Oprah and Nike were my 4 kind of models when I started building business. I was looking at how Apple was distinguishing itself with brand. and how Michael Jordan, as incredible as he is as a basketball player, was making his money outside of that court, right? And the endorsements and the way that we saw him kind of become a figurehead for all these different products. Oprah was making inspiration a product and a service. And so I was just, and Nike, just the vibe of Nike, that when you see that swoosh, you understood what it meant. And so I was kind of learning lessons from people outside of the world of the arts and applying it to myself as a business owner. So that was the first book, focusing on artists. The second book is when I understood really that I did not even have to limit myself to my art. My faith is a huge part of who I am. And I thought I prayed like everybody else. And it wasn't until I'd be in a public arena and people would ask me to pray and they would say, I didn't know you could pray like that. I didn't know we had permission to pray. I'm like, pray like what? Like the words you use, like the way you just talk to God, like he's right there. I thought that's how everybody prayed. So I wrote this book called Audacious Prayers for World Changers, Live and Pray Out Loud, because I felt like we were praying too small when we had with such a big God, and we were talking to him so apologetically, like, if you get chance in your free time, can you help a sister do this? And it's like that. He already told us what we can ask for and what's been promised. So why not pray big? And that was a hit book, the prayer book written by the pianist, had nothing to do with music.
Nothing.
Yeah. And that was sort of this, I thought my first book needed to be a music business book or my biography or a book on music. And it was one of those lessons of, your purpose is too big to be held up in one thing, and you get to ride it out in multiple vehicles. And my faith is one of those vehicles as well.
Amen. So with every guest that we have on the Money Script podcast, we want to talk about money scripts, and money scripts are these preconceived notions, these ideas or songs or movies or that play in our mind about our relationship with money. And what I'd like to remind all of our listeners and our viewers here, and by the way, if you're on YouTube, take the moment, you made it this far, go ahead and click and subscribe. Yeah, I was going to say it at some point. Well, there it is. It just happened. Click and subscribe. And while you're at it, go ahead and tell a friend too. Won't hurt. So we've realized that people have these money scripts about their relationship with money. And a lot of times these money scripts are developed at a very young age because we've watched our parents, our grandparents, or even a friend or some other family member, and it impresses upon us at a very young age. And that's how we start to develop this relationship with money. So it's the first show of season 4. So I thought I should just kind of break that out a little bit. Jade, you already know what it is. So let me ask, Jade, what is your first memory of money?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you sent it to me in advance. And as I'm sorry.
Future podcast guest. It is an on-the-spot question. You have to come up with it right now.
All of it, as I thought back, I keep looking for the actual image of green, and I can't find one. So what I did find, you mentioned grandparents. My grandparents spoiled me. I was the only child for a long time. I'm 12 years older than my sister. So I was wonderfully spoiled rotten. And they bought me, my grandmother always bought me a ton of stuff. And I don't remember people telling me no. My Christmas they would literally put the Christmas tree up on this coffee table. There were so many gifts. So my initial I thought we were rich because we had a ton of stuff. I don't think I understood until I was close to adulthood that we actually didn't have a ton of money. We were probably middle class in terms of my mother and father. And my grandparents had very good jobs, right, for their generation, so to speak. And so I think I probably grew up thinking that stuff equaled wealth. Now, as a person that would be considered wealthy, you wouldn't necessarily know until maybe this year because I got a new car. But what I was driving was not indicative of what was in my bank account. I don't rock a lot of labels, at least not outwardly. So what I was wearing was not indicative of the kind of money that I was making or the kind of charity I was able to contribute to. You couldn't tell it by the stuff. And so I think, only as an adult was I able to understand that money was a lot different than material.
Interesting. That is, and actually, that kind of gets to, we're going to read a little bit of your book, Story Time.
Uh-oh.
So this relationship that you had with money, the wealth equals stuff. When do you think it started to transition for you?
I think the more money I got, I noticed I wasn't actually interested in acquiring stuff. I was more interested in reinvesting. So I pay myself as a business owner, but I probably pay myself a lot less than people assume because I can see where I want to invest and where I want to see new income streams pop up. So it's funny, the more money that I have, I don't tend to buy a lot of stuff. I tend to build out another part of the business or reinvest it in some way. So probably as soon as I started really making money that we would call serious money, that relationship sort of reformed itself.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I have to say, Jade, you're one of the more blessed individuals, because as you said, as I've mentioned, story time. There's a prayer for those that pick up the book. I've got it here. Where this is the autographed copy. You can't have this one. She actually wrote it to my wife, Alicia. Alicia came in and had to leave before Jay was on stage. And I was like, you got to write this to Alicia. So I had to go steal this off the night table. So day 24 is a prayer to be a good steward of money. If you can't be trusted with money, you can't be trusted with a lot of money. It's that simple, isn't it? Cold-blooded. Well, if so, we're gonna have to pause for a second. All right, we'll clean it up. Ooh, that was almost scary. My computer decided it wanted to do an update. Evil. Man, glad I saw it. So we'll do a pickup here right about now, sir. Let's go. Well, if so, why is it that when we get more, we spend more? We suddenly need things we never knew we want before we had the means. What ends up happening is that our money becomes useless and powerless, except in the realm of materialism. Money is one of the great conduits of power, reach, and change, and we should manage it as such. Now, I'm just going to start off the first sentence of the prayer because, as Jade said earlier, she prayed different. So get ready for this. Lord, help me not be stupid with my current money and mindless with my future wealth. I'll just amen it right there. Oh my goodness. So as I was reading your prayers, it reminded me of a conversation I had with my mother many years ago, because I was one that also thought that prayer meant I had to be on my knees with my hands clasped and at the edge of my bed, and that was the only way I could pray. Yeah. And one day my mother told me, "You're praying right now." I was like, "Wow." Oh, and it clicked. I was like, "Oh, so I can just talk to God however I want." She was like, "Yeah, it's your God. That's your relationship with him. And that's, I mean, if he tells you that you need to get on your knees and clasp your hands, you think that's the only way he'll listen, then go ahead. But you may want to talk to him in a different way." So I really appreciated. I didn't even recognize that you were doing it until you said it, because it just felt natural to me. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's how I talk to God too." So I want to briefly, for those of you that have been with us for a long time, if you go back to season 2, season 3, I'll put it in the show notes. We met with one of my professors at Morehouse, and we were talking about how sometimes in financial relationships, especially with religious organizations, and in our conversation, he was like, it doesn't matter the denomination, we all get into the same trap of tithing before you have secured your own financial situation. Tithing to the point of you're putting yourself in debt. And it was interesting how he shared a story about, I think I want to say it was a monastery where there was their rules of tithing are a little bit different. But I'm just curious, have you ever come across any situations from business owners where their business may be struggling, even though they're in a philanthropic sort of attitude, but they're still struggling with keeping just the bills paid and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give your professor a little pushback because of my personal experience. But, tithing as a principle is
Hmm.
based on the concept that whatever you have is not yours anyway.
Hmm.
Everything you have is coming from God. So you're giving him back the first fruits of it. For me, it has been a life-changing, bank account changing practice. It is the first 10% of everything that I do. Now, that being said, and I've done it when I didn't have a ton of money. And I now do it while I have a lot more money. And I know it has been a game changer spiritually for me. I believe that whatever happens in the spiritual has an outcome in the natural. So I personally can speak to the outbreak that has come from having that be a first priority. It's more of it's in the relationship for me that I can say I can hold these things that I've only gotten because of the grace of God, because of the talent you've given me, because of the anointing that I have. So it is nothing for me to give this back to you. And I always see it come back what feels like 100-fold. 2022 was one of those mind-blowing breakthrough years in terms of wealth and accumulation and territory. Stuff that my face, my nose was to the grindstone. But as we say, scripturally, you seek ye first, and all these things will be added. Well, while I was so busy moving, all this stuff was being added behind me, and I do give a lot of credit to that, to the principle of tithing. But I have seen where either you have people who are tithing without an understanding of how the tithe works, or you are seeing leadership and authority figures requiring payment or money from members in a way that is out of balance from what I believe the scripture says. That can be detrimental for sure. I've seen people who have been mentally ill and leadership understanding there was an issue there with stability, and that mentally ill person donating money they didn't really have. And then when they were back to their senses, so to speak, or back on their meds, so to speak, realizing, crap, I gave away all my money. And seeing organizations not have compassion for that and give it back. So there definitely some misuse. There's definitely some misunderstanding. But personally, as a principle, I do stand by it. I think it's a powerful method for multiplication. I've seen it over and over and over. And I know one of the things I know we were going to talk about is this idea of, where did you start to see things change, where money is concerned. And I remember going through a whole 2 years of I really feel like being taught about the principles of radical generosity, where man, I
Yes.
was getting that nudge to give when it was not convenient. And I went through this season where I don't know, I felt like God said, if you ever have cash, actual cash in your wallet, give it away if anybody asks. And I'm telling you, I don't care where I was, what city, whatever street corner I was on, there was a homeless person or a person in need. And you say, well, are they going to use it on what they should use it on? Are they going to buy food? Are they going to buy diapers? Are they going to buy liquor? And I felt like God said to me very clearly, that's none of your business.
None of your business.
Me and you have a thing going on. So your business is the answer to me. And then I deal with them. And so I went through a year or two of up leveling in my giving. My giving began to increase exponentially. And I saw almost a direct correlation to increase in my own income as well.
Beautiful. I heard in that the understanding the principle of tithing, and I think that's what I was trying to get at with the professor, is making sure that people are that relationship to their tithe, and whether it's tithing to a church or is tithing to the goodwill. I mean, at that point, I'm not trying to split hairs on who you're giving to or how you're being philanthropic. But it's got to be tied to your values, and you've got to have a principle around it, and know that, yes, if you're giving away your first 10%, you're also not still living on 95%.
There we
go. If you
go.
give away the first 10, there's only 90 left.
Yeah. And then what else are we, when we say we can't afford the tithe, what else are we spending on? right? That is
Are your values in alignment with your financial behaviors? You can't tell me that you want to give away money, but you're giving it all to Visa, MasterCard, and American Express.
oh wow, that hurt.
Okay. So it's a new year. I just want to help. I want to help bring some people a moment of truth here. Okay. So, all right. We've got to wrap it up
I
here.
know.
We could just keep going and going,
Part
and we would
part three, we have to do it.
exactly. We will get back together. Okay. So, Jade, please tell us, what are the big things happening for you in 2023? What should we be looking out for? What stage will you be on? How do we find your book?
We are working to make sure that my name and face is synonymous with the word purpose. I know we think we know what purpose is. I know a gazillion books have been written on it, but I have written what I believe is the definitive, mind-blowing re-understanding of what purpose is and how it works. New book coming out on Valentine's Day called Purpose the Remix. All right. So we're taking that definition. People think purpose is what they do. And that's why they're so frustrated, because then when they go do something else, like, I don't have any purpose anymore. No, purpose is not the thing you do. Purpose is the thing that happens in others when you do what you do. So Yohance, you can express yourself in purpose here on the podcast. That purpose picks itself up and rides out in any other vehicle you want it to. But the key is figuring out what is that outbreak effect. That outbreak effect is where purpose lies. And I'm telling you, my goal is to free people and free their purpose so that they can move more powerfully. That book comes out, and everything else we're doing will be revolving around purpose and what it can do for people. Live events, books, challenges. We're excited to really bring as much purpose as possible to the world this year.
We might have a new book for book club.
Yay!
We do book club we do about 4 or 5 books a year.
Oh, you'll love it.
And any clients that join in on the book club, we send them a copy of the book. So
Yeah.
we're getting to the end of one, so it might be time to start another. I will put it in the hat.
Good.
All right, your website, where do we find you?
You find me at jadesimmons.com, and I'm most active on Instagram, official Jade Simmons, but I'm also on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and all the places. So easy to find.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, everyone, thank you for spending some time with Jade and I on the Money Script podcast, where our purpose is to help you make better financial decisions, period. Okay, that's what we're here to do. Hopefully you pick something up from this episode. Not hopefully, I know you picked something up from this episode. If it was on and was playing, you picked up something from it. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Give us some 5 stars on Apple. Subscribe on YouTube. Coming up in the season, we will have a Secure Act 2.0 conversation so you can know how that's going to affect you. A lot of us is going to affect our parents and grandparents. Most of it has a lot to do with them and the money that they have, how they can pass it on, how it's taxed, some radical new changes to the 529 plans, some changes to 401ks and Roth IRAs. There's a lot of changes. So we're gonna talk about those changes on future episodes. Got a great lineup for you for season 4. Remember, I said it earlier, check out Alicia's podcast, The Money Mantras. That should be one should be on heavy rotation. You know, wake up in the morning, need to get your mind right on money, let it play. I think it's like 6-7 minutes or something like that. Maybe it's like a song. It is a song. It has music, but maybe it's spoken word. I'll let her tell it. Again, thank you for joining us on the Money Script podcast. We will see you next episode.